I'm Bet from BettesMakes, and today we're going to play with some Infusible Ink pens, and we're going to do some drawings, and we're going to apply those drawings to a mug. So I'm actually going to use our mug press. So let me just switch cameras here. And I have a few things in place here. I have a mug from Cricut. I have some heat transfer tape that won't bother with the heat transfer. Over here, I have my mug press. I'm just going to turn it on now to get some heat going on it. I just want to make sure it is turned on. There we go. And that's going to heat up while we're working with it. And then I just have some laser copy paper. Now with the laser copy paper, we can only work with a certain size that's going to fit on this mug. So I'm going to bring out my little cutter. And I'm going to tell you the sizes that we're going to need. Now, when we're working with this, we just need it 4.5 inches high. So I'm going to take these 2 sheets of paper here, and I'm just going to make them 4.5 inches. Let me just pour this out here. So I want them 4.5 inches high. So if I bring this right to this area, so I have 8.5, and I want 4.5 inches high. So I'm going to move this over to where I see the 4-inch mark here. And I'm just going to shut this and then just give it a cut. I'll just move these over to the side. I'm not going to use these pieces. They are going to be too tall, a little too tall, as you can see, but I could chop off a little extra edge of this one as well. Not to worry about the rough edges. So why don't we just take this one as well, and we know we just have to have 4 inches. Let me just, sorry. So this is going to, it's at 4.5. I'm just going to bring it to the 4-inch mark. So let me just move this over here. Let's take off a little extra, and then we're going to have 4 sheets of paper that we can start working with. Hey, that sounds perfect. Now, the other part of this is that we can't have a full 11 inches. We need to work with 8.5 inches. So we're from 11. We want to have 8.5 inches. That's exactly where we're going here is 8.5 inches. And I'm just going to cut this off as well. Get rid of the extra little piece we don't need. And now we have the perfect sizes of paper that we are going to work with. Now, drawing is not necessarily everybody's forte. And sometimes if you want to draw something, it's not working out exactly the way you want. So you might want to use some stencils or something else, or look at some models around you of different things that you can use. Now, I have been cutting a few things here and there, and I end up with little pieces and scraps that we can start using as stencils as we work through some of our designs. Now, I've cut out a few witches here and there, and I've cut out a few other things that we can use. But I think what we want to do is then just decide, what do we want to draw on here? And you've got to remember that this is going to, if you're going to put any text on here, it's going to be a mirror image, because if I put it on this way, it's going to be mirror. So I tend to stay away from different things like text. So let me just see if I can find my other little stencil pieces that we can start working with. Lots of pieces of paper here. So let me just move these out of the way and see what I can find. It's just, a matter of sometimes of just using shapes. So I have one here, which is a star, and it seems to be really big, but we can see if we can match it as best as possible. So what I'm going to do, because a pencil won't transfer through, I'm just going to give us a couple of little nudge edges here. And just to give us an idea of where that star could go. And let's pick on some really nice colors that we could use. These are all medium, and this one is an orange. So what I can do is start drawing these edges. I'm going to try and draw them in as best as possible here. Not to worry if they don't exactly match. Remember, this is hand drawn. So people are not going to expect it to be absolutely perfect. Looks like my orange pen doesn't want to work as well as I want it to. Let's see if I've got another one here that's going to work. There we go. Get the impression of a star here at least. I can bring it down as close as possible. Give a little round edge maybe. Bring this one a round edge. To say drawing's not necessarily my forte. You can get the general idea of what we want to do with it. So I have a star here that we can play with. And I could add, other little stars in the center. Now there's a bunch of other colors that we can use in here. And let's just see if we can add. That was another star perhaps. And let's do it this way. Just make it really funky and add wonderful little designs here. I'll tell you, drawing is not my forte, but you can color all of these in. And this is just to make it a lot of fun to work with. And this is just an example of what you can do. So this star, I might not use this one. My artistic ability is not stellar with this one. Okay, so we have a little design there. That one worked a little better. See what we can do with our red. Maybe I can do a trace on the inside of this. Okay, great. And I don't think I can write backwards, but we'll give it a try. And that will make a B that is backwards. That would go on my cup. And I can do a bunch of other things. And like I say, sometimes just getting shapes of something will really, really, really make a difference. And I think I had a little shape on here that I might be able to use. Actually, on this butterfly. And I could use that as a shape for doing some of the drawing. So if I wanted a pink butterfly, now we'll do something a little more serious than this, but I can just come around and do the butterfly shape. Much better at tracing than I am at making these things work. But as you can see, you're only working on a piece of paper, and you know what the greatest thing is? It doesn't have to be your drawing. You could have your children do some of the drawing and really making this super cute. Okay, let me just move that. A little bit of sticky on it. Put it back on my machine. As you can see, I can add some antennae here. And maybe just a little bit more in here, and then you can sort of add some little designs as you go through. So now we have a nice little butterfly. And you can use silhouettes of almost anything you want in order to get that particular design. Now, I know this looks like a little bit of kids' art, but what we're going to do now is draw something a little more serious. I'm going to get some drawings that will actually go on top of these pieces of paper. So this is one way, is by hand, but now I'm going to start to use my Cricut and do some drawing with these hands. Let's just move everything else out of the way here. And I'm going to bring my Cricut over. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to load a mat with a couple of our pages here. So we know the size that we want. I'm just going to add here and just add a few little drawings on here. That's not straight. I want it straight. It's really good. And I'm going to add another one at the bottom. I'm going to actually have it draw some of the shapes that we're working with. So first of all, you can draw these by hand, or next you can actually make these in Design Space. So let's move over to Design Space. I'm just going to do a share, a Design Space open here. Let me just share the screen. Come over here to Design Space. Now, these are ones that we had drawn in place before. I know they're the exact size of what I want, but I'm going to do this without a template. So I'm just going to click on New, and I'm just going to replace this on the screen. What I want to do now is come over and grab a square, and I'll just unlock it. But I also want to change the color so it's easy to see. So we'll make it a light yellow. Now up at the top here, remember I said we can work with 8.5, and the other measurement was 4.5. Now I'm going to lock it into position. So what this does for us, it enables us to draw things within that size, and that's going to draw on our Cricut. So we can do this via shapes. So here's a heart. Let's just bring up the heart. It'll just take a second for it to load in. Sometimes it takes its time. There's our heart. I'm going to change this from a basic cut to a pen because I want it to draw into place. I'm going to make it smaller and maybe just change the size. And I'm going to make this a red pen. So let me just find a raspberry pen. There we go. I'm going to draw a heart, and maybe I'm going to duplicate that heart. Oh, I moved the wrong thing here. So okay, let's just grab this heart, and I'm going to move it around over here. Just want to move things into position the way I want it. Now here's the beauty of doing it on the Cricut. I can write the words, I love you, and then I can mirror everything. And it will really make a difference because I can't write backwards. Make the I love you. That looks great right here. I don't like the font, so let's just change the font a little bit. We find something that's really nice for it to write. And this is single layer. There, that looks really nice, but I also want this to draw. I don't want it to cut out. So I've selected it. I have to come over here to the basic cut and click on it in the layers panel in order to get it. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to change that to a pen, and I can decide if I want that a different color. And let me just scroll down. Let's make this a dark blue. I can click away from it. So I've got the I love you and maybe a couple of hearts. I don't want to move that. I want to move this. And maybe move this in a little bit. And you know, this is pretty simple, but it's going to draw on those pieces of paper I have. Now, the I love you, you can see where there's some things just overlapping each other. Now, I know with the current font that doesn't make any difference, but to be on the safe side, I'm going to come down here to the bottom of the layers panel, and I'm going to click on weld. Now, what I want to do is I want to center this across this paper. So I am going to align it. I'm going to center it horizontally, and that just looks really good. I'm going to take these two hearts, hold down the shift key, get the next one, and I am going to align those to the top. And that's just so they're even. We're not going to be using this piece of paper, so it's, you know, it's rather a moot point. But on the other hand, it will enable us to then center things. So I'm going to take these two hearts, and I am going to weld those together so that they're together. I'm going to take this one and this one together, and I'm going to align them horizontally just so everything is kind of aligned. So I have something drawn in red and something drawn in blue. So maybe we want to also add an image. So let's just go over to images and see what we can find that will fit in there, that we can draw, that'll make it really nice. Now, this is Halloween time, so you could put a Halloween drawing, or you could put something else. You can have it drawn any color you want. And I'm just scrolling down here. There's Hello Kitties. Those are cute. Pies, pumpkins. butterfly looks a little complex, and I want something that's pretty simple. And trick or treat, no, let's get something. Let's put this little crown in there. Okay, so we're going to add that to the canvas. And I'm going to make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to add this in here. Yeah, that looks pretty good where we're going to draw it. Just want to take it and the card behind, and actually this, and this. Oh, I'm holding down the control, not the shift, and this. Just want to make sure everything is aligned horizontally. There we go. That's in a good place. So I'm going to click on this. You notice it's set to basic cut. So now I'm going to change that to a pen. And I am going to change the color of that as well. And let's find a nice, oh, let's make it yellow. I know it's going to be hard to see on the yellow. So let me just change the color of this from yellow to, oh, let's just make it a light mauve. That's just so I can see it. Now those all look really good together. So I'm going to hide my card in behind. And what I want to do is highlight all of these together, and I am going to come down at the bottom of the layers panel and click on attach. And that is so that I can keep all of these together without a problem. Okay, now I said we're going to do 2 of these. So I'm going to take this one off of here. We're going to make another one down here just to make sure we have enough places. So let's go back to some images. And we can decide what we want to do here. Maybe this is just fun one with some bats on it, so we can add it to the canvas. And maybe that's all we need to do here. Let's see if we've got some images that just say Happy Halloween. We have pumpkins, Thanksgiving, we have chickens, and that says Happy Birthday. I don't seem to, well, we have a trick or treat, so maybe I can add that one. Let's add that from the canvas. Wow, that's huge. So we can do trick or treat. Just going to draw these on. I just want to make sure that they fit within the area that we're expecting. And those look really good together. So let me just hide the item in behind because we are drawing these. Let's pick them all. And we're going back to a pen, and we're just going to leave it as black for now. And then we are going to attach it. So now we have 2 things that we're going to be making. So let's go ahead and save our project. And our project is going to be Infusible Ink drawings. Now I'm not going to use the one that I made earlier, but it's just to give you an idea. So we're going to call it BettesMakes and Infusible Ink drawings. Let's just save it. And I'll click on the check mark here to make sure. And then we're going to go over to make it. And my machine should be on. And I heard our mug press making some noise. So it looks like our machine is on. We're going to do this on mat and done. Now it's all going to come on the same mat, so we can draw at the top and we can draw at the bottom. And it's going to give us our pen changes as we need them. Now I could just move these over just a tiny bit. Center it off 8.5. So what do I have for length? 8.5. I'm going to try and just center it as much from 8.5. That looks about right. And I'm going to do the same with this one. And the reason is I just have a piece of paper on there, and 8.5 seems to be where we're going with it. This one seems to be okay. This one was slightly off. All right, we are looking good. And of course I need to mirror it because they both have text on it. And let's click continue. Now this time when we're going to go over to the machine, Just take a second or two for it to go. We're going to use a laser copy paper as our type of paper. So let's go to like cardstock. No, we need laser copy. Let's see if we have it on here. No, we're going to click on Browse All Materials, and I'm just going to put copy. I'm going to search for it, and I have copy paper, and ours is very thin, so it's going to be the 20-pound paper. I'm going to make it a favorite so I can get back to it later, and I'm going to click done. So now it wants our black pen, and it wants us to load the mat. So I'm going to stop the share, and we're going to go back to our mat here. So it wants a black pen. Now I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to use our sample over here. Just going to make sure that the black is drying. It doesn't seem to be drying that well. No, I think this first one is going to be the one we're going to use. I'll just make sure that it dries. Seems to be fading away. So what if I didn't use black? I'll see if I've got some more Infusible Ink pens here. I do have a few. Seems to be my stash for the time being. No more infusibles here. So I'm going to have to take one of these. I'm just going to make it a dark brown. And I will check my dark brown color. There we go. That one writes beautifully. Okay, so I'm going to load this one in. This is infusible. Just push it down. I am going to load my mat. Okay, it wants me now to load the next pen. And where is it here? It wants my dark blue. Okay, so let's take this one out. And let's add a dark blue. I don't know if I have a dark blue, but I might try purple. I just want to make sure that it'll write okay. Yes, it does. And let's press go. And now it wants a raspberry pen. Just check on my colors every time. That one looks good. Our crown color, which I had as a gold, so make it a blue. Let me just check on it here, just to make sure it will write. Yes, it will. And I see with my words down here, they didn't come through the way I expected them to. Okay, so I'm going to have to make sure that I write this over top on my own. I'm just going to release this. Just move this out of the way for a second. But I wrote this one in the purple, but you'll see that it didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to. What I'm going to have to do with this particular one is I'm just going to have to go ahead and just add my little outline just to make sure it comes out the way I want it to. Generally, what I would do with something like the I love you that seems to be having an issue with the letters and they're not coming out right is I color them in. So that's not too bad. So that one looks okay. I'm just going to put my pens away here. I find that the more I use these pens, the tougher it is. So let's just click on finish here. Just move those out of the way. So on this one, I didn't put the paper down far enough, but I ended up with a little piece onto my mat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our mug now, and I have cleaned it off. You can use a lint brush to clean it off. I'm just going to shut this off, move it out of the way. There we go. So what I want to do is I'm going to peel these off. Okay, and just move this over here. So And I don't like the way this one came out. So I have a couple of them where I'm not too 100% keen on exactly the way I wanted it to have. This says trick or treat. Actually, that looks really good. So what I can do now is I want to make this face down into the mug. And this is a really important part because I'm going to have to tape this into place exactly centered the way I want it. And as you can see, it's going to come to the edges. It doesn't make designs really close to the handle anyway, so I can put these on as straight as possible. And then I'm going to tape these into place, and then I'm going to put them into the mug press. Now I'm just going to move this one aside because we are not going to use it, but I am going to use some of this heat tape, and I'm just going to cut some pieces off that I'm going to use to hold it into place. Just a couple of little pieces here. What I want to do is decide how this is going to work its way, and I want to center it as best as possible. And I want to try and get them as even as possible to the bottom. Okay, so I'm looking really good on this one piece. I probably should have cut two pieces at the same time, but I didn't. Let's see how it doesn't tear by hand very easily. So I'm just going to come up through here. And I'm going to tape this into place as well. There we go. So these are going to look really good. I could tape some edges just to make sure, but I think we'll be okay. I'm just going to come up here, just use a little more tape just to make sure my corners stay into place. Just tape it up here. Around. Tape here. It's not going to hurt it to add a little extra. We go just a little bit on here. Now generally you want to put something else around here to protect it from the heat, and I generally use some parchment paper, and I think I have some inside my scrapbook kit. I'm going to lift this up. I have a piece of parchment paper here I can use. And the parchment paper is just going to protect your mug from some of the heat. Now I'm just going to leave it out this way, so it doesn't matter if I have extra at the top. Well, what I want to do is use some of my heat transfer tape and tape it into position. Back here. Let's just bring this from here, bring it through. Stick where I don't want it to stick. Going to protect everything, and I probably will fit better this way. No, I'm going to have to cut it in a couple of pieces, which is just fine. Start with one here. This is heat tape, so it's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't matter if you have extra. Bring this around. Actually, it does fit around, so I will just cut another piece. And I'll just cut a small piece off the edge here. Bring it around, and what it does is it just protects everything. And keeps beeping at me. It says you're too slow. Come on, hurry up. Okay, we're looking really good here. So we've got all the pieces and parts. All I'm going to do now is put it inside of the mug press. All I did was feed it inside of the mug press. And I'm just going to push it down the edge, and it's going to start heating up. And when it gets to the very end here, that means my mug is heated enough, and it's going to have a beautiful design on it. So we have our trick or treat, and we have our different bats that are on it. So I'm just going to move some of this stuff out of the way while we wait for this to come out. Now I'm going to need a nice mat to put the mug on when it's completed. And the reason I need the mat is because it's going to be extremely hot and you need it to cool off. So we just wait for this to come on, and there's my heat mat. I'll put away my tape. Don't need my extra papers anymore. So it's just important, you know, when everybody has a nice little craft area. Mine is very, very small, so I have to keep everything in order. So we are just waiting for this to come out. It may take a minute or two, so I'm just going to pause the recording until we can get all of the buttons flashing. Now, I don't know that you can see the lights flashing here, even if I made a little shadow here. I don't think you can quite see them, but there's 5 lights that are flashing here. So all I need to do now, and let me just turn this over, I just want to pull this up so that the lights go out, and then I can grab our mug by the handle. I don't want to touch it per se, but I'm going to move it over onto the mat for it to cool down, and then I can move my mug press out of the way, and I'm going to turn it off so it can cool down as well. So the big thing with this is we need this to cool down. As you can see the design through here, but I can't take the paper off right now just because it is not cool enough to touch. That might take, you know, a few minutes for it to cool down. So I'm just going to leave it like this. And then I'll turn the recording back on and I'll show you exactly what we ended up with. Now it looks, if I take a look at it just this way, it looks really nice. And you know, you can also write right on your mug with your infusible ink and be able to do something with it there. So let's just let this cool. And it should only take a few minutes, and then we'll be able to see how our mug turned out. So here we are. Take a look at this beautiful bat that we have on one side, and I'm just going to roll it over because it's still a bit hot. And then we have our trick or treat on this side, and then we have another bat down at the bottom. So this is really cute. I know you're going to love making these with infusible inks. You can put your own words, whatever you want to have on it. And just remember, you need a nice clean piece of paper with no extra markings on it in order to make it perfect. Now I've got a few little dots here and there that must have been on the paper, but that is our infusible ink mug. I hope you had a lot of fun doing this one. It's a little patience for things to heat up and cool down, but it is well worth it. So until next time, happy crafting.